The lightning is really putting up a fight. So let's try and make some progress on the Marauder. I think that's what we're going with, the Marauder. I like that. Alright, when we last left off on this project, I was really hoping to have my fully forged Terminator swap into my 2004 Mercury Marauder, but we ran into a problem with the very strange Marauder torque converter bolt pattern, or spacing or something. We basically found that the torque converter would not fully go through the flywheel to the point that I could start a bolt. So I wasted hours and hours researching potential flex plates that would work after already doing the research with the one that's on here. Thankfully, you guys in the comments were very helpful and said that sometimes you just need to, if the torque converter is all the way seated in the transmission and the flywheel's here, sometimes you just need to pry it a little bit forward and that will get the studs on the torque converter through the flywheel. So that's probably what we're gonna end up doing, because I ordered two other flywheels and I don't think that either of them are gonna work. One I got from my buddy Mike over at Wallace Ford Parts. Again, if you guys are looking for Ford parts, give him a call or a shout. He has got you covered. This one, which I read might work, is from, I think, a 2004 F-150 with the 5.4 or 4.6. So it's got the 8 bolt, which is important for us. Not gonna work. These holes for the torque converter are for the 11.5 inch stud pattern. So unfortunately this one will not work. Then this was another popular one that people recommended. This is a Hayes. This is another SFI flywheel or torque flex plate rather, just like the one I have on there. This one I thought was gonna be double drilled, so the 10.5 inch bolt pattern and the 11.5 inch bolt pattern. And it's only drilled for the 11.5. So unfortunately this one is not gonna work either. I of course got this from my friends over at Holly. Those guys are always trying to help me out, and we really thought that one of these would work. I have the best people supporting me, but I don't know if either of them are gonna work. So I'm gonna have to, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out a way to make the one that was in there work. I'm gonna try and pry the torque converter forward, see if we can get it fully seated, and then maybe call this assembly done. And if you guys also recall, we had a little bit of an issue with the 04 Cobra oil cooler, which was not gonna work with the oil filter, gonna be right up against the frame rail. So I've got an oil filter relocation. I'd like to get that bolted up. Basically get this thing 100% ready to drop in as an assembly. So if we're gonna get anything done, I gotta stop talking. So let's get to work. Quick break from the action, guys. Just wanted to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is DXZ TAWS and their new articulating Borescope camera. This thing is going to be perfect for anything automotive, aircraft, plumbing, or construction related. You guys know I use my Borescopes on this channel all the time. I'm so excited to try this one out. Let's get this thing unboxed. On opening the box, we're going to see a beautiful carrying case, and then of course the 5-inch 1080p LED screen. Setup is super easy. Just pop it onto the handle and you can see the 180-degree articulation of the endoscope camera, including the super bright and adjustable LED. Everything comes in a really nice package. There's a magnet attachment for fishing out tools that you might have dropped and a hook attachment for the same thing. Switching between the multiple cameras on the endoscope is easy and also includes a neat feature, the 50-50 split, which allows you to look at 2 cameras at the same time. So even though we haven't installed this motor yet, let's say we wanted to take a look inside the cylinder. This is the best part about this Borescope. Push it all the way down till it's touching the piston. We're looking at the beautiful cross hatching in the cylinder walls there. Then rotate all the way 180 degrees back up and boom, we're looking at the exhaust valves. You can zoom in up to 10 times digital zoom. Let's rotate to one of the other cameras. There's the cross hatching on the cylinder wall. Rotate to the other side camera. Now we're looking at, actually this is a split screen of both the down facing camera and the side facing camera. You can look at both at once and still move around. Here we can see the pictures and videos that we've taken. So useful in the garage, at the house, at the job site, everything. If you guys are looking for a top of the line Borescope with 3 cameras, LEDs, and unlimited functionality, check out DXZ TAWS. The link is going to be in the description. All that being said, let's get back to some Marauder content. Finally, engine and transmission, Terminator long block, and 4L75W. Did I say that? No, I'm thinking of GM stuff. What is it? What is this thing? Yeah, 4R75W, right? I don't know. The automatic transmission, they're bolted together. Finally, you guys were right in the comments. First of all, I learned, let me get one of my new Jeff Bezos lights here, from you guys that hole, which I never knew what it was before, because I'm a manual transmission guy, is for tightening the flexplate bolts, which is exactly what I did. You can see that one fully seated, fully tightened, just as you guys recommended. There is a way to get under here. I actually went through, where is it? Yep, that little hole right there, and was able to just clunk the torque converter forward like 1/8 of an inch, and the bolt holes, or the studs rather, poked through, got one bolt started, tightened down, rotated the motor, got the other 3, then torqued them all to 26 foot-pounds, and we should be good to go. Got all my bell housing bolts in. I guess I just have to tighten that there. Got my oil filter adapter from eBay. It was like 65 bucks, but it's all billet aluminum. I'm gonna have to figure out where I want to mount the oil filter before we run our lines and stuff, and then figure out rad hoses, get a sending unit for the oil pressure sensor on there. But I think that's gonna be easier to do when we're in the car. And then I moved on to the wiring harness here, because it's on my quote-unquote short list. These are all the things that I have so far that I'd like to do before we are able to start this motor, and I figured this might be easier to do, at least get started before we put this in the car. Most of the plugs are the same, but the Marauder intake manifold, the intake is on this side, so a lot of stuff is reversed on the Marauder harness, like the TPS and the IAC, which are over here on the Marauder. Same thing, you can see the Marauder fuel rail here. The fuel rail pressure sensor is on the passenger side, whereas on the Cobra, it's over here on the driver's side. Also, there's an IAT2 sensor on the Cobra, which the Marauder doesn't have because it uses a 6-wire mass airflow sensor. So what I'm getting at here is I'm gonna have to extend some wiring, convert the mass airflow wires to the IAT2, and a couple other things. So I wanted to get an idea of what every plug was and see if there was extras. I think the Marauder has knock sensors that the Cobras don't have, so I haven't quite figured out what to do with those yet. I think these are those little RF frequency things that go on the back of the heads. I don't even know where the other one is on this side, but I think I have everything labeled. When I first started this process about a half hour ago, there was tons of plugs that I didn't know what was what, but just kind of going into the car, seeing what goes where, I know what every single plug is, except for this giant one, which is going to be on the passenger side. So I've been looking over here. I don't see anything, but this is like a 6-pin connector, so it's got to be something obvious. I'm sure I'll find it eventually, but everything else, I know where it goes. So I thought about doing all the wiring extensions here on the motor, but I think I'm going to do it, on a nice flat, clean surface, and then we'll just plop the harness in to the car or onto the motor once the motor's in the car. One other thing I wanted to point out, still have to get the starter bolted up here, probably do that in a second, is that I have heard that flex plate that I used, the spacing isn't exactly perfect for the starter, so we may have to shim the starter, but I guess we'll see once we get this thing going. I think right now I'm ready to finally, hopefully for the last time, plop this motor and transmission into the Marauder as one. So wish me luck. Let's get her done. Why are these things never long enough? Ever. In any car, I've never had enough. Look at what I had to do to get the lightning bed on. Sketch. They're never long enough. Gonna have to take this grill off so we don't mess that up. Also, why is it not dropping in? Why are we still so far away from the motor mounts? I guess the transmission is maybe tilted it? I don't know. Turns out, once you get the angle right, the jack stand on the bottom, there's plenty of room. Why does this thing weigh 100,000 pounds? Oh, good. Didn't need light anyways. Well, for the first time since probably 2017 or 2018, this 2004 Mercury Marauder once again has a power plant. This one's a little better than the one it left the factory with, and even a little bit better than the Vortex supercharged stock motor that came out. Struggled a little bit getting the motor in, but I mean, when is installing an engine and transmission together, especially of this size, not a little bit of a struggle, especially by yourself. Obviously, we've had the motor in for test fitting the alternator a bunch of times, but having the transmission change the angle a little bit, made the approach a little bit tighter, and had to get under there, get a jack, get the angle right before I could get enough distance through here to get everything bolted up. Motor mounts slid in pretty easily. I knew it was going to be a pain on the way out, but this Panther platform transmission crossmember is got to be 100 pounds, and there's no good way to get it up in there. And once it's up in there, it's like
wedged in these steel mounts. It's huge pain to get in there. I actually ended up putting a jack under the center there and then just kind of jacking it up, then using a dead blow to kind of hammer it in place, and then started the bolts, and that's that. But the drivetrain is officially secure. I guess I technically still need to bolt the motor mounts in, but we'll get there. Anyways, now I need to do everything else on this short list, and probably a lot more. I think right now I'm going to focus on getting the power steering pump, which is laying on the ground down there. Needs to go behind this alternator bracket there. This AC compressor needs to like flip down and go down in this space right here. Then we can get our inner belt on. I've got to make these coolant crossover hoses, which are going to end up over here, I think, on the radiator top hose, which means you need to get the radiator back in, transmission cooler lines. Got to get my oil filter, figure out where I want to mount that so I can start making my oil lines. There's still a ton of work to do here. So in no particular order, I'm just gonna try and start knocking some of this stuff out. So back to work. How is there any fluid left in this vehicle? It has leaked transmission fluid everywhere. How is there any power steering fluid left in here? Answer me! Things are going great. Things are so good. Well, a little bit of a mess, but that usually means progress. Doesn't look much different, but we made a lot of progress. A little bit of a struggle here and there, as usual. Power steering pump on these motors is a pain in the butt. And actually, I want to show you something. Dad noises. I'm already starting to brainstorm radiator hoses, but let me get this out of the way for now. But you see that guy right there? That's basically, I think that's the low pressure return to the power steering pump. The factory Marauder configuration was basically pointed right into the alternator, so issue number 123 of using the Cobra accessories. But honestly, a pretty easy fix. But as I learned, that's just a press-in little fitting there. So I just rotated it like 90 degrees. Now I have this coming up and out, and the power steering reservoir
should now be able to go in the factory Marauder location, which is right up here on the fan shroud, which I'm gonna try and locate in a junkyard maybe later, because the Mustang fan that's on here now, which is probably from the Vortex setup that used to be on this car, mounted the power steering reservoir over here. I'd rather it in the factory location up here on the shroud. And then we can also mount our coolant reservoir, which I have on that shroud, also in the factory location. AC pump wasn't too bad, got that up there, and finally got our inner belt on. Tensioners, everything, you know, the whole inner belt is routed, brand new belt, all new idlers. We are good to go on the inner accessory drive, finally. You guys will also notice down here, there is the oil filter relocation bracket or billet adapter plate. And I'm already starting to work on the relocation. I think I'm gonna mount the filter right here on the frame rail. There's these two studs from the lower rad support. And I've already made a bracket. It's the frame notch or frame rail that keeps on giving. Not only did I use it to brace the mufflers when I was welding together the lightning exhaust, if you guys watched that video, but I found that this was perfect for those two studs. So the plan is to mount it up on the frame rail like that, and then our adapter plate for our, this is gonna take a Motorcraft FL1A oil filter. Boom, bolt right to there. Let me show you guys where that goes. Fresh coat of Rust-Oleum, of course. Boom. Just like that, already labeled in and out. Get the AN fittings pointing over there, and then I can run the AN line right next to the sway bar here and up here. And now we have our oil filter, not only out of the way of everything going on over there, but nice, easy oil changes, hopefully. That's one of the big complaints about these motors in these cars and in the Mustangs too, is normally you get the oil filter out over there, and it just drips all over the steering rack, so that's always fun. So now we got some AN lines to make and pop an oil filter on here, and we should have our oiling system and oil filter relocation done. More parts, more new parts. I've had some of these kicking around for a while, but let's start with these. If it's OEM Ford Motorcraft, you know that I got it from Mike Walls at Walls Ford Parts. Again, guys, best deals, and if you use my code, you're gonna get a great discount on shipping. So a couple things we needed. One, brand new Motorcraft battery. Nothing better than having a low mileage, cleanly modded Marauder, and now we're gonna have a nice Motorcraft battery in this spot right here. Also got the, I think this is the 99 to 04 battery tray. Yep, you can still get it, brand new from Ford. You can see the Marauder battery tray over here is slightly larger. So what guys do is they get the Mustang battery tray, and we're gonna fix it somehow over here. And obviously that is gonna move the battery, make room for our intake. And because it's a slightly smaller battery tray, it should allow us to keep our factory washer reservoir there. So I got some work to do over here cleaning up, but that's the plan. Also, this is a key piece of the puzzle. This is the map sensor or IAT2 sensor specific to the Cobras, which goes to that sensor right there. So we're gonna have to do some wiring on the harness to get the IAT, which is in the Marauder mass airflow sensor, and bring at least two of those wires back to here, but this plug is critical for that, so Mike was easily able to locate that for me. So some new Ford parts there. Then I've got a brand new JLT intake setup for this thing. This is obviously a Cobra intake. So we got a beautiful S&B red filter there, the JLT elbow, all your clamps, silicone clamps, hoses, stuff like that, mass airflow adapter. It does come with this little fender well cover that I think goes on the Mustangs, but I'm not putting that on, even if it did fit. Nobody puts that on. I want to see this big red air filter, but yeah, this thing is going to come down here, and right away you can see the problem we're going to have with the fuse box. So that's what I'm going to focus on next, I think, is battery relocation, intake, and coolant hoses a little bit. I've already made a mess with all my wiring stuff, my spare cooling hoses. This is actually off the Marauder. I got some random elbows and stuff over there. We got to make our coolant crossover, our on-3 coolant crossover stuff, but I've got a plan for all that. I spent a lot of time last night just kind of mapping it out, and I think we're headed the right direction, but we got to get back to work. So let's start knocking some more stuff off that short list. My sprayer, what did we break? I swear there used to be a battery tray there. Oh yeah. Man, the vision. It's coming together. Take a peek. Now that is what a $12,000 motor looks like in a otherwise $2,000 Crown Vic cop car. Just kidding, of course, it's a low mileage Marauder. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. But anyways, this is coming out so good, you guys. This is what it's, even though it's not the right size, I got the right size on the way. I had to throw the Gates green on to see the blue and the green, a little bit of yellow, and the final piece de resistance, of course, is the red JLT air filter. SCT Big Air mass airflow sensor was in the trunk. This was on the car when I bought it. Huge shout out to Lightning Force Performance for the JLT air intake. Those guys have everything you need for your modular Fords, Coyotes, etc., etc. And I've always liked the way the JLTs have looked on the Cobras. Love the exposed red filter element, just the plastic here, no cheesy like aluminum or anything like that. They used to make a carbon fiber one, which would have been sick, but I can't find it. I thought about painting this, but I'm kind of digging the matte plastic finish with the matte wrinkle Ford Racing blue there. I honestly don't know if I would change anything on this. I'm absolutely in love. Coming down here, oil filter relocation is done, minus the filter itself.
Got to get a little plug in there, and then of course I might get some, like, what do you call those, clamps or whatever, that kind of keep these lines nice and tidy. But I think there's going to be room for everything, including our rad hose, which is going to come over here and go over to the bottom radiator hose over there. Tons and tons of progress here, guys. The motor is in, the oiling setup is all set. We've relocated, oh yeah, the fuse box, we got to talk about that. Made a little quick bracket just to relocate this fuse box. Goes from here, pivots over here, and I wanted to do this quick and make it as easy as possible and as clean of an install as possible. Once again, the scrap pile saves the day. I think this is a tool that I made for my E55 to tighten the harmonic balancer to 450 foot-pounds or whatever that spec was. Basically just a hollow pipe. So I basically cut a piece like this, just like that one right there. Once again, same as the oil filter relocation, use my riv nut kit. There'll be a link for that in the description. And basically made a couple mounts here. See, you could see the bracket right there. Basically, all we had to do was just space it out from the inner fender to, you know, basically where it mounts right here. So now it has shifted 90 degrees. Solid enough. I mean, if I had it my way, I would have another mount right here. But I mean, this is a steel bracket, and it's literally wedged right up against the air filter right here. That is, how do you say, not going anywhere. Flicks tie-down strap. So things are looking really good in here. There's still a lot to do, but we're looking good. Now, let's go see if we can locate a couple of cooling parts for this thing. Update, we are not getting parts. Yesterday I was going to try and get a radiator fan at a junkyard, the Crown Vic Marauder Lincoln Town Car specific one that has that big shroud. I want that because that's where the factory power steering reservoir and radiator overflow is going to mount. But it turns out all the junkyards locally are closed for the entire week for 4th of July, so can't fault them for that. Taking a little time off to celebrate the independence of our country. But unfortunately for us, that means it's the end of the video because I also would like to take some time off for 4th of July. So I'm up at the lake right now, gonna spend some time with the family, enjoy the water, get out on the boat a little bit, get some sun. Got the truck washed up this morning, so it was still a little bit productive. The F-350 is looking great. But I also spent some money this morning, just ordered a brand new Crown Vic Marauder radiator, like Dorman fan, belt, some other stuff off Rock Auto, and basically I think everything else we'll need to get the cooling system together. Everything. I think that I have everything I need, knock on wood. Tons of progress in this video, you guys. The motor and transmission are together. They are in the car. It has its first motor since probably 2017. Got the oil system plumbed up. Got the fuse box relocated. The intake is on. Power steering pump is back on. AC pump is back on. And I did a lot of figuring in my head and basically mapped out my cooling system and intercooler system and all that. So I think that the rest of this stuff is going to go pretty quick. With any luck, within the next week, hopefully this thing will be running. So thank you guys as always for watching. If you enjoyed the Marauder content, give it a thumbs up. We are literally scratching at the bottom of 100,000 subscribers right now, like 99,500. So if you guys are not subscribed, make sure you hit that button. Tell your friends. I'll catch you guys in the next one.